from Chicago, this is Fox News at noon.
Music fans in Chicago and across the world are remembering a rock and roll legend this afternoon, George Harrison. Good afternoon, I'm Tamron Hall.
And I'm David Navarro. And first on Fox this afternoon, the voice of another Beatle has fallen silent. George Harrison has died following a long battle with cancer. He may be gone, but his music will certainly live on. And Nancy Lewis here with more on George, his music, and his fans. Nancy?
David, George Harrison's wife and son were at his side when he passed away yesterday at the home of a friend in Los Angeles. Today, the two surviving Beatles are remembering Harrison as a best friend and baby brother.
The Beatles! Close your eyes and I'll kiss you.
He came to be known as the Quiet Beatle, and throughout his incredible career, George Harrison insisted it's simply about good music.
Most people plan out careers and records and tours like a military campaign. You know, mine's always been haphazard. I just make a record if I feel like, and I don't really, you know, look at it from that point of view as a career.
Something in the way she moves.
The long and winding haphazard road brought Harrison fame and fortune as one of the Fab Four. His passing has brought countless recollections of a fine man.
We just had so many beautiful times together that's what I'm going to remember him by. A lovely guy who's full of humor, as I say, even when I saw him last time, and he was obviously very unwell.
Harrison hadn't been well for almost a decade, but his battle with cancer worsened quickly this year. The longtime smoker was diagnosed with throat cancer in the early 90s, just a few years after returning to the top of the charts as a solo artist.
I got my mind set on you. I got my mind set on you.
As a Beatle, Harrison was often overshadowed by McCartney and Lennon, but he also composed a number of standards that still inspire fans to sing along.
Really want to see you love, but it takes so long.
He paid tribute to George Harrison of the Beatles here on 93 XRT.
Here in Chicago, Harrison's death was topic #1 on the morning radio shows.
We've watched him grow up. You know, he was like in his early 20s when we first met him, and it's like losing a close friend or a family member, and for Paul and Ringo, it's losing a brother.
In recent years, and even in the weeks before his death, Harrison was working on new music, adding to an already astounding musical career.
But it's all over now, baby blue.
Now, a private service has already taken place, and there is no word yet on a public memorial or Harrison's final resting place. In a statement today, his family said, "He left this world as he lived in it, conscious of God, fearless of death, and at peace." David and Tamron.
All right, thank you, Nancy. So many wonderful songs to remember him by. And George Harrison fans are creating makeshift shrines to the former Beatle at several locations across America.
The Hollywood Walk of Fame is one of those locations. Paul Clinton joins us live to talk about what's happening there. Paul, this afternoon, what's the reaction? Obviously, we can imagine, but what can you tell us?
Yes, hi, Tamron and David. There are numerous fans around here. They've been coming in since early this morning. There are a number of flowers, there's candles, there's incense here at his star. Well, actually, it's the Beatles star. It's not George's individual star. And there's masses of media doing live shots all over the world.
Respond in L.A., his hometown. How did they respond to this news this morning?
There is great sadness here in Los Angeles. George spent a lot of time here in California. He had a home at one time in Beverly Hills. Jeff Lyons from ELO was one of his best friends. And Johnny Grant from the mayor of Hollywood came and placed his large wreath behind me with the roses and the banner earlier this morning. And as I said, fans are continuing to stream in here.
Paul, any word yet on the friend's home that George passed away? Was he there in his last hours? Was he sent away from the hospital saying this was the end? Do we know any more details about his last moments alive?
I didn't get that at all.
Can you hear me now, Paul?
Yes, I can. Okay, can you give me a question again?
Yeah, Paul, we want to know more about, George Harrison passed away at a friend's home. We want to know more about the details of that. Do we know if he was sent away from the hospital saying these are your last moments? I know he was surrounded by his wife and son, but do we know any other details?
Yes, his wife was with him, and so was his son. He died at a private home that has not been disclosed yet, where that was in Los Angeles. He had obviously been discharged from the hospital. He had been in Mayo Clinic. He had been in a number of places in Switzerland over the last year fighting this long battle.
All right, Paul Clinton, thank you for that live report there at the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Well, later at noon, we're going to take a look back at George Harrison's music and the legacy he leaves to rock and roll.
Moving on now, though.